We're going to go over wigs and hair pieces. And I know that y'all may think this is not for me, but this is one of the easiest things you can do because it'll stay with you. You can go in and work on it 5 minutes at the time. And the second shop I ever worked in, we had a separate wig room. They were really popular at the time. And I learned to love working with wigs during that because we'd go in and have our little stool and our little wigs in there, and our clients would drop them off, and you styled them and have them ready when they picked them back up. And the price is the same thing as it is for a shampoo and set for your client. So it made life really easy. So a lot of reasons people still wear wigs, and oftentimes people wear wigs and we don't even realize it. One is our cancer patients now, and they do that from necessity. So we don't want to discount wigs. In a rural area, I'm not too sure you'd do too good trying to sell wigs, because there's not enough demand with the variety of colors you have. But hair enhancements, as they're called, and we'll go over some of them, and I've got some I want to show you, are really becoming popular now because when we get ready to go somewhere, we may be ready, but our hair may not be ready and we don't have time. Also, for people that have fine, thin hair, some of these additions are real good. We can go from really short hair to really long hair in a matter of hours by sewing in, weaving in, gluing in, fusing in. So that becomes very interesting, and that is a high dollar service in the salon. First thing we want to do is a client consultation, and we're getting adjusted to them, I guess, because we need to find out what our clients' needs are, even if they've just come in with a wig and they want us to shampoo and style it. We've got to know a lot of things through this client consultation. How much can they do in putting it on and taking it off? Are they going to integrate their hair into it? If they are, we've got to make sure it's a color that will match their hair. And when I talk about integrating their hair into it, unless you get a wig with bangs, you're going to see a wig band right through here. So that means you've got to pull some of their natural hair out and keep it down when you put the wig on, and then integrate it into the wig itself. And if that's going to occur, you want that hair to be as closely the same color, as close to the same color as possible. If not, it looks like a wig with hair on top of it. So you want to consult with her and see what she wants done. She may be wanting this wig cut, and that calls for a lot of discussion. And when I say that, we know that wigs will not grow back. We learned that from our mannequins pretty quickly, I think, in hair cutting. So we want to discuss with her, what does she want cut? And if the color doesn't quite match her hair, and she's going to always integrate her hair into it, it is a lot easier to color her hair to match the wig than it would be the wig to match her hair. In the case of human hair, we could color the hair, but we got to remember that we can't go back and color it again because it doesn't grow out. After a while that color is going to fade off or be washed off, even if it's permanent color, and we can't just go back and destroy that hair using more chemicals on it. So that's another reason it's easier to dye her hair to match the wig than it is to the wig to match her hair. We also, during the consultation, if she's brought a wig in, we want to try that wig on her, because often what happens, people want to wear a wig because they have such a small amount of hair, and then they go from this to this all of a sudden with a wig, and they look unnatural in it. So we've got to come up with the way she wants it styled and what she feels comfortable with in wearing that wig. So a wig can be defined as an artificial covering for the head consisting of a network of interwoven hair. And we usually say to wear a wig, you've got to cover your hair 100%, except in the case of integrating it. If the hair addition does not fully cover the head, it would be a hair piece. And we can use those in the top, the nape area, the crown, or whatever. And the first thing, if we're looking to buy a wig, or we're going to advise her to buy a wig, is to find out the advantages and the disadvantages of human hair versus the synthetic hair. And there is ways to tell. You might say, well, she's already come in here with a wig and I don't have a clue which one it is, so I don't know how to handle it, what to do with it. But There is a simple match test you can use to determine. You know, oftentimes people have cut the tag out of the wig, or they've bought it somewhere that it's second hand or whatever. But all you got to do is take a few hairs out of the wig and get a match, and you want to lay it on a non-flammable surface or something that won't, burn or stain from the burn. Take a match and set fire to the fibers, the hairs, whatever it is. If it is human hair, it's going to burn kind of slowly. It's going to give off this disagreeable sulfur odor. If it's a synthetic wig, the flame will go down it real quickly and go out, and what you'll have left is a little bead or ball that's going to be hard. It's actually the plastics or the plasticizers that was in the hairpiece. Different people are going to have different favorites with this. You got to remember with human hair that it has the same drawbacks that our human hair does. It may not hold curl if the weather's real rainy like we've had lately. We've got to shampoo and style it just like we would somebody's hair. On the other hand, if it's synthetic, it has the style manufactured into it, which is a disadvantage to some people because the style can't be changed. But when they bring it in to have it shampooed, all we've got to do is shampoo it, turn it wrong side out, have the net on the outside, put it under the dryer, and make sure there's no heat on the dryer. Just turn the dryer on and let the cool air go through it until it dries. Or we can just lay it on the counter if we've got plenty of time and let it dry. And when it gets dry, we turn it right side out, take a brush and brush it out, and it goes right back into its style. So that sounds real advantageous, but there is some drawbacks with that. If we cut it, we've got to be careful that we do not cut into that pre-curl. If we get halfway in a curl, then we've got a curl that's not fully formed. We can't change the color of it. We can't change the style of it. A lot of people say they look so shiny that they do not look like real hair, but you'd want to select them carefully. So human hair wigs do look more realistic. They have greater durability. We can perm them, we can cut them, we can color them. Also, we can change the style of them because it's not preset into that. The disadvantages, though, are the climate, also the shampoo and set. If we color it, it's going to lose the color quickly. And the hair will break and split. And once it breaks and splits, what have we got left? We've got this wig that's now breaking and splitting. We've got a mess, or she's got to wear a shorter style now than she might have originally wanted. The advantages of our synthetic wigs, we know it's pre-styled. They're also cheaper than human hair because we can manufacture something cheaper than we can wait on somebody to grow their hair out and then it be purchased. They come in a wider range of colors. They come in the latest styles, and since they are cheaper, we can afford to have more than one. The colors are almost unlimited, and they range from natural to wild fantasy shades. What would be a good time? We'd want some of these wild fantasy shades. Now, we know Walmart sells them at Halloween. Is that what you were going to say, Halloween? What other time might we want something that's not quite our color? Maybe we want to be blonde for what? A party. Just anything, so we can change it right off. The colors never fade on these, no matter how often we shampoo these synthetic wigs. It holds its color because it doesn't have the layers, the medulla and the cortex and the cuticle that hair does, that causes it to give up give up its color. Some of the disadvantages of these synthetic wigs, as wonderful as they sound, if it's certain fibers, we cannot use a curling iron on them. We cannot use any heat. Remember I said put it under the dryer of the cool heat. We cannot color them either because they don't have the cuticle scales or the cortex. So if we put color on a synthetic wig, what would be the outcome? It would just go off. We'd just rinse it right off when we got through, unless maybe a little bit of it coated on it. Synthetic wigs, again, are so shiny that sometimes they may not look natural, or if your hair hadn't been shiny and all of a sudden you put on this real shiny wig, everybody's just going to draw a lot of attention to you. So, human hair wigs and synthetics have the pros and cons. So the bottom line is, what you pay for is what you get. Our success in working with hair additions will be determined by the quality of the product. Cheap wigs may be great for fun moments or to practice cutting on, but in other situations they can look tacky and unattractive. The most expensive wigs are made from human hair. The price scale is, with European hair, it's top of the line. It's virgin hair, which means it's never been colored or permed or anything. Color-treated hair is second in cost. Now, if y'all will notice on our mannequins that we get, and we do buy the most inexpensive they are because you're going to be practicing, you're going to cut them. But if you'll notice, as you begin to shampoo them, or when you get into hair coloring, you begin to color them, and let's say you lighten them, you'll notice it does not lighten evenly because all of the hair did not come from one head. But if you've got the European hair, you can feel assured that it all came from one head of hair and that that's the color it was when it was cut from the head. So it's harder to match up, and that's why it's so much more expensive. Hair from India and Asia, and this is where most of the human hair comes from, are next in cost. Indian hair is available in lengths from 12 to 16 inches, and Asian hair from 12 inches to 28 inches. And it's probably hard for us to understand, but a lot of countries are so poor, this is a means of income to them. They grow that hair simply so it can be cut and sold. Human hair mixed with animal hair is next. The animal hair may be Angora, horse, yak, or sheep hair. And I have ordered a couple of yak mannequins for y'all to work with. And some of the students really like those for updos. And you can use your intense heat of the thermal irons on that without worrying about damage. Yak hair is taken from the animal's belly. It's the purest of white. So therefore, we can dye it any color. And it was real popular with the teen market when the blues and greens and violets and all were very popular. There are several important questions you want to ask when selecting a client for your wig, for them a wig if you choose to do that. Do they want human hair, animal hair, or a mix of both? Is the hair colored, or is it in its virgin state? If the hair is human hair, is it graded in terms of strength, elasticity, and porosity? Is the cuticle intact? Now, oftentimes when we run into some problems with our mannequin, it's because the cuticle is no longer intact. And I noticed the last batch of mannequins I got in, they've got a little card in it. I don't know if y'all have purchased one of them or not. And it tells now that the hair has been boiled for 6 hours to make sure there's no disease or anything left. And therefore we don't know whether it's turned hair or whatever. The cuticle scales, instead of coming down the hair strand like ours does, maybe went in the opposite direction. So when we comb that mannequin hair, we may be actually roughing up that cuticle scales because it's just put in there in any way. So cuticle intact hair is more expensive, and the hair has been turned, and that means that all the hair roots are towards the scalp of the wig. Is the hair fallen hair, meaning did it shed from the head? Was it picked up from hair brushes? Fallen hair, again, will not be turned hair, so the cuticle can be in any direction. The cuticle is sometimes removed to keep the hair from tangling. This hair tends to be less expensive. Is it tangle-free? If the cuticle has been removed, then you may not be able to condition the hair, because what do conditioners do to human hair? They detangle it, and what do they do to the cuticle scales? They close them back down. So if the cuticle's not present, conditioning's not going to do a whole lot of good. Will the hair match the client's? Can the hair be permed? If the client is going to maintain her hair at home, will the wig last a reasonable amount of time? Needless to say, even if they wear this wig all week long, they're not going to want to bring it to the beauty shop on a weekly basis, nor should they have to, because hopefully they're removing it at night and putting it on a form and not sleeping in it. And then they're shampooing their hair in between times so it doesn't get the sebum and all that the natural hair would. We also got to think about the type of wig. We have cap wigs and capless wigs. And cap wigs were all the rave when I first started in the business, but the industry has gotten away from it because cap wig means it's just like a full head cap put on your head. They were very hot. They were very like painful because they have the wires and all in them to hold them down. They're constructed of an elastic mesh fiber base to which the hair is attached. They come in several sizes, so they have to be sized to your client. Whereas the capless wigs are machine made, it makes them more, less expensive. The hair is woven in long strips called wefts, and in between those strips are areas that are kind of open and not full, so that your natural hair is allowed to breathe. Most of them also come with Velcro right along the nape area, right around the temple areas, so you can take the wig up and make it smaller or let it out to make it larger. And that also makes them less expensive. Also, the way they were constructed has a lot to do with the expense of them. Are they hand-tied or hand-knotted? And this means that all the strands are put in by hand, by inserting individual strands of hair into a mesh foundation, then knotting them with a needle. Or were they semi-hand-tied, meaning constructed with a combination of synthetic hair and hand-tied human hair? They're reasonably priced and they look natural. And machine-made wigs are naturally the least expensive because we put it through there and can sew them up kind of like you do a shirt. So they're the least expensive option. They are made by feeding wefts through a sewing machine, then sewing them together to form a base and shape of the wig. They do have the disadvantage of the wefting directions. And what does that mean to us, the wefting directions? If they're sewn horizontal, that hair is going to always fall horizontally. If they're sewn diagonally, it's going to fall diagonally. So for the client that likes to pull her hair behind her ears and they're sewn towards the face, that's not going to work. I'm not going to cover taking wig measurements because usually that's something you do if you're going to make the wig for a client. If y'all would like to do that at a point in time, we'll work on it later. We do want to learn to block the wig. And I tried to find our head form back there, our canvas covered block. And usually it's covered in canvas, so if water does get on it, it'll dry easily or won't absorb very much. We usually cover it with a plastic bag. And these blocks come in different sizes. So if we've got a real petite sized head and we're going to work on a wig for her and we've got a big head block, then when she comes to get that wig, if we've styled it that way, even if we take up the places on it to make it smaller, the style is going to be too large for her. So you want her to get, or you to get, a wig block that is suitable for her. And this is where your styrofoam head forms come in. I don't know if y'all have worked with them, but I know you see them. They still have them in the dollar store and all. It's just the white styrofoam. Try to get one that's close in size to her head size. And on the other hand, if we've got a large-headed client and we're fixing a wig for her and we put it on a small block, then it's not going to expand like it should. So always fit the wig to the right size block. We also want to make sure we attach it at the right places because when she gets here to get it, we've got to take it loose. And we've got to teach her also, if she's going to leave that wig sitting there, how to put it back on the block and how to attach it. And a lot of people like to get a 2-liter Coke bottle and put it on. And then when they get up in the mornings and put the wig back on, they don't understand why they got a place sticking up here. So recommend to them these wig blocks. The styrofoam was only about $1 or so. Recommend that they get the wig block and learn to put it on there at night. When we put it on there, we want to attach it at the temples, above each ear, at each corner of the nape. And that's to hold it in place, and we do so with pins, and it looks like a straight pin except it has a little T on the top of it. We want to make sure that we attach it real carefully to that form so as we're combing it and all, it doesn't start falling off. We've also got to instruct her on what is she going to do with her natural hair when she puts this wig on. And there's a lot of avenues you can take. Some people like to just ball it up and pin it to the top of their head, and that's okay if they don't have much. Some people like to take the leg of a pantyhose and pull over it so to hold it firmly. But the problem with that goes back to the heat and the breathability of the scalp. Because it's vitally important to the growth of your hair that it receives air. Just like we have to have air to breathe, the hair has to have air in order to be healthy. So I like where they just take kind of large sections, but not real bulky sections, and put in pin curls and put bobby pins in it. But you want to be careful in touchy parts of the head. Me, if I had something right here, it would irritate me a lot, and I think the bobby pins would hurt. So you want to pull it up a little higher and put it on a little tougher areas of the head. Make sure all of her hair is hid, though, and won't come down. It's got to be secure. And show her as you go through. You're not going to lose business. You're going to gain business by always educating her. And show her how to do it and what she finds comfortable. Cutting the wig, if you're going to cut it while you have it on your client, is a good time to cut it. Why?
So that you can go with the shape of her head and her style.
That's right. So we can go into the shape of her head and her style. Now, would we want to cut, we usually cut human hair or our client's hair while it's wet. Would we want to cut this wig wet or dry? Dry. Why? We would want to cut it dry. Remember the rule about stretch, elasticity? Dry hair will only stretch 20% of its length in return. Wet hair will stretch 50%. If we're cutting a wig and it's 50% stretch, and we're going to cut more off than what we think, and even having it on her head when we blow dry it, put her under the dryer, it's going to be shorter than she wanted probably. So it's really best to do the cut, to do the style, and then go through and cut the areas that, because usually they're not going to want it cut all over. She might want the top a little bit shorter, and that's fine. And then you can put the curling iron back in and style it a little more if it needs to be. But it's best to have that style in, because oftentimes we put the wig on her to try it on and it's not been curled up. And she says, oh, it's too long, it's too long. If she had waited till we curled it, mightn't it be shortened up to suit her at that point?
So when people come in with their wigs on and get like a washing set, leaving it on their head?
No.
That's why you pretty much need a private room, wouldn't you?
Pretty much. That's why we had one, and we really enjoyed it, and the clients really liked it a lot too. Styling the wig. Most of the hair you will be working with is chemically treated, so we want to handle it. So they do not require special wig cleaners. Now, wigs of the past, they ask that you have a special wig cleaner. But these wig cleaners smelled real medicinal or chemically. The breathing was hard when you had it in there. They evaporated, and most anything that evaporates has that odor that kind of burns when you sniff of it. And it was so flammable too, and I guess back in the day most of the cosmetologists smoked, so there they were styling wigs and smoking, and the two didn't mix very well. So you want to make sure that you know what this wig is made of and what does the manufacturer recommend it be cleaned with. Most wigs now can be cleaned with our gentle conditioning acid shampoos. If they're human hair, we want to use a conditioner on them to get the tangles out. Also, make sure if you're going to put any styling product on it, like mousse or gel or spritz, that you use something developed for color-treated hair, because you don't want to add something on there to make the hair real hard. Styling tips for the hairline, and this is what we was talking about earlier. Make sure if the wig does not have bangs that we're doing something with right around the hairline. And sometimes even if it's real short right here, but most assuredly there. The last thing you want to do is send your client out and everybody that meets her is looking right under her wig or right there at that wefting. Excuse me. How do we color this wig if we're going to? What do we use on it? Semi-permanent, temporary, or permanent hair coloring? Now, I know we've still got a ways to go in hair coloring, but what product would we choose? Temporary only does some coating and it can't lighten, it can only darken. Semi-permanent is a coating, but it's a stronger coating dye. But again, it can only darken, it can't lighten. Permanent hair colors can darken or lighten, but they're very strong chemicals. And we're, again, working on a wig and on hair that has been through processes that we're not aware of. If we want it to last a long, long time, we're probably going to have to choose that permanent color. But if we're going to deposit color and not try to lift color, we can use a low volume peroxide, right? 10 volume, so that it will only deposit. You also want to check about the cuticle scales, because if they are not intact, what's going to happen to our permanent color? We're just going to waste it. It'll probably take, but then there's nothing to hold it in there, because remember, the cuticle scale is the protective covering of our natural hair color and also permanent hair color we put on there. When coloring a human hair wig or hair piece, make sure you do regular color checks on it. Also remember that most of the time, unless you've bought a real expensive wig, in which case you'd probably be leery about coloring, that all the hair did not come from one head, and therefore you're going to have different levels of color in there. Perming the wig. If you want to perm a human hair wig to match the client's natural wave pattern, you need to know how the hair was colored. Was it decolorized and then dyed with a metallic dye? Y'all remember about our metallic dyes? They're not sold professionally, but they are still sold out in some of you drugstores and variety stores. If there's a metallic dye present on that hair, what's going to happen if we put that permanent wave in it?
It's going to boil.
It could boil. It could change the color. It could break the hair. So if we're in doubt about what was done, we may want to do a metallic dye test by cutting a few strands of the hair out and putting it in the putting the hair in that solution with our peroxide and all, and see what the reaction is to make sure there's no metallic dyes present. If there's none present and the hair was color treated, we can perm it with a color treated hair, with a color treated perm. But the problem again goes back to normal healthy hair will go through 2 chemical processes. Okay? If it was lightened and then colored, that is the 2 processes. So we want to be real careful about perming our wigs unless we know for sure. Hair pieces are all the rage of this year and time. They're another important area of hair additions. We can even afford to carry some of them in our salon for our clients to purchase. Hair piece gives 20 to 70% coverages. Hair pieces may sit on top of the client's hair and are usually attached by temporary means. That means the client takes them out, lays them on the dresser tonight, can put them back in the morning. Many wig companies offer these ready-to-wear low-maintenance hair pieces that serve as an introduction to the world of wigs. Some hair pieces are easily blended into long hair, other into shorter hair. Some, all they do is add height or volume to the hair, others add length. I brought a couple when I went to Chicago back in February, and these are the rage here, and these are about $18 or $20, and they're just, you integrate them into your hair. You can put your hair in a ponytail, pull that up over it, or you can just sit these on top and pull them out, you know, pull your hair up. They had them on sale there that day, and you can see they come in a wide variety of colors. Our gold student wore this at gold competition, and Miss Duke said her hair looked so good by pulling her hair through. It doesn't have to match your hair. If you'll notice, there's 2 or 3 shades in this one. You can also wear 2 of them at one time if you need more volume or bounce, and integrate them into each other. And all they have is an elastic band in the center of it. So it means you can pull it out further, whatever you want to do with it, and have your little style right then and there. And had I had a salon, I would have probably bought a lot of them there on sale for $2.50 a piece, knowing I could come back and sell them for $18 or $20. So this is an integration hair piece that has an opening in the base through which the client's own hair is pulled to blend with the hair of the hair piece. They're very lightweight, they're natural looking, they add length or volume. If your client is wearing extensions and would like a change, the integration hair piece can be a good alternative. These would also work well for somebody that had thinning hair. Then we have our toupees. Men are the typical customers for toupees. Women can also wear these hair pieces. It's a small wig used to cover the top and crown of the head. The fine net base is usually the most appropriate material for the client with severe hair loss. And again, this fine net allows the hair to breathe. There are two ways to attach toupees. Temporary, using tape or clips, and this is like the double-sided Scotch tape we get. Part of it's put on the toupee and then part of it on the scalp. Now that's kind of a bad thing if there's hair there. That'd be okay for somebody's bald, but when you start pulling that tape out comes some of the client's hair with it.
That if it rains when it get wet and loose.
Well, that's what your umbrellas are for. It wouldn't with a little bit of dampness, but I'm sure with a lot of dampness it would. There's also semi-permanent ways such as weaving or putting tracks or adhesive or sewing. And I go along with this gluing, as we call it, or adhesive, the same way I feel about tape. If we want to put a track of hair in there, we can braid their hair and sew it in, which is the preferable way to me, because when we glue, we're supposed to put it in the part of the hair, but we know what's in the part. There's more hair there, and we put that adhesive there and then put the track in. When we take it out, some of the hair is going to come out, although they're coming out with good adhesive dissolvers now. They're a little bit pricey, but that's preferable to taking the track out and tearing out a lot of hair. Most wearers of toupees prize the confidence gained from wearing an authentic looking hairpiece and are prepared to pay a high price. And for the person that's going to wear a toupee, they do need to pay a higher price, because a toupee usually leaves this out of their natural hair and this out here. And I had one client that had a toupee that irritated me a lot, and I always have to tell my groups about it. It had been an expensive toupee at some point in time, but he was an older man, and I think he had had it since he was a younger man. And he wanted his hair cut always with that toupee. I never saw him without the toupee, although I did his hair for a long, long time. And we had the wig room at the time, and I'd try to get him to go in there and let me know, no, I'm not taking that toupee off. Don't cut my toupee. This is what we went through the whole time of doing it. Make sure you don't clip any of the toupee off. And that toupee, I promise you, had we taken it off of his head, it would have stood on the table. It was so stiff. I don't know if he never shampooed it, or maybe he wore it all the time. I don't know, or shampooed it when his hair was shampooed. I never understood. But this looked like toothpicks sticking in the back where it had gotten so hard and the hair was grouped together. You know.
Well,
So
this book looks good. It don't even look like the same person.
he does. And the problem with that is they should have used the same poses and sunglasses in both instances. They changed him an awful lot. And I don't know that that was a good thing. I think maybe, you know, if you weren't going to have sunglasses on in one, you know, I think it should have been the same thing. Because I have had students that argued that that wasn't even the same man. And that's...
It don't look like it. But he's good looking.
I think it is too, and it's kind of like people do for before and afters. You know, in the before shots, their hair hadn't been combed, they have no makeup on, and they're just looking for a hairstyle, and then they do this beautiful hairstyle and put on all kind of makeup. But why didn't they have the makeup on before? You know, if you're only going...
Self-confident. Now he feels self-confident.
Yeah.
It's like he has a suit on and he's like more outside and brighter light in the after shot, so he looks a completely different color. Looks like he's actually got some color in there.
Well, he may...
Like his complexion.
He may have. So I think they were a little unfair to us in that case. But if toupees work that well, I think we should invest in some maybe around here at some point in time. All right, fashion hairpieces are a great salon product for special occasions or for use as fashion accessories. Especially popular in the bridal business. They vary in size and are constructed on a stiff net base. And a couple of those are the wraparound ponytail is a long length of wefted hair that covers 10 to 20% of the head, and it's just used as a simple ponytail or chignon. Chignon is a French term for the little bun or ball that goes on the back of the head. A cascade of curls is also attached with a comb. And let me tell you what I always think about when I think about a cascade of curls, and it's actually a hairpiece that can be worn horizontally or vertically. If you watch Gunsmoke or some of your older movies, Bonanza or something, you see the ladies walking down the street with the long dresses dragging the sidewalk. They all have long hair and it's hanging down, and there'll be this pile of curls falling down the back of it. That is actually cascades that's been put in there. They were very popular also during the wig days when I first got in the business. And I just loved styling a cascade of curls and putting on somebody's hair. You know, and you had the challenge of making sure it matched good because all of their hair was left down like yours is now, and then that cascade was pinned there on the back. They were just gorgeous. A hair wrap is mounted on an elastic loop. It is further secured to the client's own hair with hairpins. Whenever you're using hair pieces, make sure you blend the client's hair in with the hair piece. Just like with this, I would hate to set this up on somebody's head. You'd at least want to pull a few strands through and integrate their hair into it because this is artificial hair. I'll go ahead and tell you, and you can tell by the way it's shining that it's real, real shiny. And we may not realize it's that much more shiny until we put human hair, you know, like we set it on the human hair. But if we pull some of their hair through, it integrates with that shine or with their hair. Hair extensions. This is all the rave today. And that's, you know, we see the movie stars on something and say, my goodness, what did she put on her hair to make it grow so fast? She put a hair extension in. You know. And we had an administrator that worked here one time that had real, real thin hair. And she came, we had Saturday classes then, and she'd come in about once a quarter to have them tightened up or redone or hair extensions put in her hair. And she came for a long time after she retired, after she left, because it would be so expensive where she lived to have it done. So this is a very profitable thing, and not very many of the hairdressers in this area want to do it. So people are going to Augusta and Macon and Atlanta to have it done. So you know, it's time consuming. But if one client's going to come in and pay you $300 or $400, what's the difference in that and having 5 or 6 clients? So hair extensions are hair additions that are secured to the base of the client's natural hair. They add length, volume, texture, or color. They offer a greater blending of real and artificial hair than hair pieces. Extensions are left in the hair for a longer period. They're not removed at night. They're not even removed when you shampoo. You just go back there and shampoo while it's in there. They are an increasingly popular salon service, not only for clients who are looking for something different, but those suffering from hair loss. A lot of manufacturers are going to offer training in the attachment of hair extensions, but some things we want to learn, and also some of the things you'll learn here and can expand on your own. You got to first know what you're going to be adding. Is it length, thickness, or both? Know what final style you're striving for so you map out your desired style. You may want it in circular attachments rather than straight horizontal attachments. What are you wanting that hair to do after you put it in? You also want to stay away from the hairline at the front and the sides and the nape because we don't want to see those wefts of hair or where they've been sewn in. With very thin hair, you've got to be careful about the base showing through also. Curly hair tends to expand and give the illusion of being thicker than it really is. So when working with curly hair, know whether you are going to be matching the client's hair or whether you wish to add another curl pattern to the hair. Also, straight thin hair and curly thin hair may have similar density, but curly hair will appear thicker. That means that you may not need to put as many as you thought in there. We have the track and sew methods, and this is actually where you go in and do the little cornrow braids and make sure it's a real small one. Then you take the extension and actually sew it in. You want to be careful how you sew it in because we want this hair to swing if it's got length on it like natural swing does. Or like hair, you know, if y'all throw your heads around, your hair will swing back and forth. And if you're not careful how you sew it in, it makes for a stiff look rather than the natural swing. They can be sewed in with the lock stitch, the double lock stitch, or the overcast stitch. And we'll do that in the lab as y'all get ready to try it. I like to sew the hair in. I don't like the braiding too much. That kind of turns me against it. Then we have bonding. Involves attaching hair wefts or single strands with an adhesive or a glue gun. And don't go to Walmart and buy you a low heat glue gun. It's not that kind of glue gun, and it's not that kind of glue either. And I think the book cautions you about that. Bonded hair sits snugly on the head and is fast to apply. There is some degree of slippage, meaning when it slips down, it's going to get on the hair, and that adhesive is going to get on the hair. Then we have fusion. We had an instructor that was certified in fusion. I have not been off to become certified. I did sit in on her classes. But fusion was an amazing thing to me because you take out 10, 12 strands of their hair, hold it out about that far from the scalp. You put a little chemical on it, and you take about 12, 15 strands of the natural hair, or the hair piece you want to put on it, and you rub it till it'll hold, and then you put a little heat device on it. And it will swing and sway just like natural hair. The only drawback to me was you can't comb right from the scalp down, but that hair would brush, swing, and sway. And it stayed there. You shampooed with the fusion on there. And this is the companies that you're going to have to go to them to be trained before they'll sell you their product. Because there's also a removal method. And actually the removal takes about as long as the putting in, because you've got to go right back to where you've attached the hair and put the removal chemical on there to get it out, or either the tool again. But I found that to be very interesting of how it was put on. And I didn't mind it as bad as the bonding or gluing to the scalp, because you went right back in and moved the chemical before you tried to pull the hair out. So we might want to get in on a seminar with that. So fusion method of attaching extensions. The hair is bonded to the client's own hair with a bonding material that is activated by heat from a special tool. This is expensive. It harmonizes with the client's natural hair. No uncomfortable or unattractive attachment sites. When we bond to the scalp, we want to be careful, because when they sleep at night, that weft will stick right to their heads in certain areas and make sleep discomfortable. Same way with these braids. If we're not careful where we place those, remember they got to sleep in that. That doesn't come off at night. Fusion may be the best choice for clients with fine limp hair. Bonding and tracking can create bulk at the base. That's not a problem on hair with texture and fullness, but it may show through on thin hair. Fusion procedure involves wrapping a keratin-based strip around both the client's hair and the extension. The heating element is applied until the bonding agent has softened, and the bond is rolled between the fingers with both natural and added hair have adhered. In any of these methods, with wigs or hair pieces or extensions, you just have to practice, 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 like with anything else. But I think a lot of this is going to become more and more things of the future, because we live in the fast track, and you can always bank on one thing with hair fashion. During the summer, if the styles are real short, what's it going to be in the fall?
Long.
It's going to be long. Every time. And that causes a lot of these services to really be popular. Put it in there until your hair grows out. That's why I caution, if you want to wear short hair, that's great. Go ahead and have it cut off, but don't think you're going to cut it to be in fashion in the summer and then be in fashion in the fall, because it's going to be gone. That's how they always do things. And then about the time you get it all grown out, here comes the short again, so you can get it all cut off and then put something in to make it long again later. Questions?
You just about need to invest in wigs, don't you?
You just about need to invest in wigs and learn about these hair pieces and extensions and fusing.
If you have to really short hair, how do you blend it so you don't see all those little short pieces?
That's really difficult. If you're talking about like somebody's had their hair cut and spiked, they're gonna have to wear a wig till some of that grows out, unless you're gonna fuse to all the hair to hold it down, and then you've got your fusion laying up here on top. You've got to have something through here to cover whatever you're putting in there, unless you go to a full wig. That was a good question, though I had not particularly thought of that. Any other questions? Very good.